to the Upshot, multi-world disc golf podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the publisher, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield. And I am down, Josh, in San Diego, California. It is so beautiful here.
Yeah.
I mean, from the sunshine to the ocean to the desert landscape, what a beautiful city. I'm getting ready for the Ultimate Frisbee National Championships. Just as disc golf is ending its season, Ultimate is ending its as well. And so that tournament begins tomorrow. And looking forward to, this extravaganza of disc sports action in October. I apologize for the audio quality today. I'm recording from my AirPods. It is not my home studio microphone, and so we'll just have to make it work. So thanks for bearing with us. We've got a lot to get to today, and we'll be talking with Missy Gannon a little bit later on about her spectacular finish to the season. And Josh, why don't we just get right into this? Did Missy Gannon do enough over these last two tournaments to put herself into the Player of the Year conversation with these back-to-back wins?
I think that you have to talk about her now. It's something that previously, she had the Throw Pink Women's Championship, but Paige and Katrina both had their major win as well. And so it was pretty easy to just say, well, if you just were to consider the Throw Pink a major, wipe the slate clean of the majors and just compare the rest of the season performance, it's still, Missy can't come even close, unfortunately. I think that this changes it a little bit. And I guess this goes back to the question, and not to diverge too much from FPO, but I think that your philosophy and how you choose the Player of the Year has to be consistent. And given that that's the case, I think that Missy Gannon and Paul McBeth make very similar cases as to why they should be Player of the Year. I think they both had stronger end of seasons, but most importantly was their performance at the majors. Missy winning one sort of major, and I guess neither of them are technically majors. I guess if you compare important tournaments, right, we consider four of them on the women's side: U.S. Women's National Championship, Worlds, Throw Pink Women's Championship, and the Pro Tour Championship. Missy takes home two of those, and in addition to what I think was a lot stronger end of season play, it does merit some consideration. I'm hesitant to say, though, that I think that she begins to make a case against Katrina. I don't know if she makes a case against Paige, though, because Paige just has too many wins.
Yeah, it's easy to be feeling like the recency of what we've seen from Paige, kind of like, oh, she derailed her chances. But you just have to remember that there was a stretch where she was unbeatable. She has way more wins than anybody else. And, she did win the major and came in second in the other major. And Missy Gannon did not do that. Now, I think you have to acknowledge that Missy Gannon won the most money this year.
Yeah.
And I think we're at the point where that becomes an actual metric that you need to consider in the calculus of who's going to win this award. But I do think ultimately that you are right, that Paige Pierce, despite a very disappointing finish and will feel like, wow, I wish I just won some more of those tournaments instead of winning this award and feeling like I kind of limped to the finish line. But you know what? You still, at the end of the day, were the best player on the whole of the season. And I think Gannon maybe is number two. I don't know. It's tough with Katrina winning Worlds, but Gannon just finishing so strong. It's like when you remember this season, I think you're going to remember two things from FPO above all else. You're going to remember this back-to-back pair of wins from Missy Gannon, and you're going to remember Katrina beating Paige at Worlds. Those are the things that are really going to stick in your brain. And that's why it feels a little weird then that Paige deserves to win Player of the Year, but I don't really know what else you do. When you actually look at the data, I don't think there's much of a question about who the most consistently good player was this year.
Well, and you have to remember as well, if COVID travel restrictions come into place and one Kristen Qatar didn't come over, Paige probably has 2 or 3 more wins under her belt that she can then add to that list. I mean, head to head, Kristen beat Paige at several of those tournaments that I think otherwise Paige took second place and probably would have won. That means you can't give credit to, typically when you see stretches of the season where someone falls off a little bit, it's because the other players are doing well, right? So when we look at Paige's lackluster finish this season, it's not just pulling away from Paige's resume, it's adding to Missy's. The difference is, though, that middle season that we saw where Paige went without a win for a little while doesn't really bolster anybody else's resume. I mean, it does Kristen's, but she's obviously not really in this discussion because of the lack of a full season. And so it doesn't create quite the detriment to Paige that I think it otherwise might have if, Katrina or Missy had been winning those tournaments instead. And so I think when you look at the entirety of the season, it's just impossible to pick anybody but Paige, even if at the most important points she failed to kind of meet the expectations.
Well, let's jump over to MPO. Paul McBeth did not win the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship, but he still made it to the final round. Very strong performance from McBeth, again, to close out a year where he also wins the USDGC. Ricky Wysocki did not make it to the final, as we discussed on Tuesday. And do you think this changes anything on the conversation on the MPO side, Josh, about who deserves to win Player of the Year this year?
It's hard because when you look at the final performances of all the 3 players who are in this discussion at the important tournaments / majors, right, including the Pro Tour Championship, Paul McBeth, especially after this weekend, stands far and beyond above the rest. Eagle not even playing in it because of his injury, and then Ricky not making it out of the first round that he competed in. That being said, I have a hard time saying, because if we're being frank about it, hole 2 cost Ricky that tournament. His airball putt on hole 2 is what cost him the chance to go to the finals. He almost did it regardless, but that's it. And so I have a hard time saying that we are going to remove Ricky's Player of the Year due to that blow up hole. And it wasn't an ideal time. And he did it. He messed it up. He's out. He did not advance past semifinals because of it. And maybe I'm not giving enough credit to Paul's advancement to finals, but I don't think I can undermine what Ricky's season that I feel like has consistently been the better player, except at the majors. And I don't know if Paul had won this.
Finish your thought.
Okay. I think if Paul had won this tournament, then in that case, I am more compelled about making a Paul McBeth case. But the problem is, in my opinion, that the only reason Paul gets credit for Worlds is because it was stolen out of the basket by a long-haired, envy-throwing James Conrad. Otherwise, he gets second at Worlds, but right. If Paul gets second in less dramatic fashion, I don't think we give as much weight to Worlds as we do right now. We give so much weight to Worlds because Paul effectively had it in the bag and then just got it snatched out of the 6 claws, and one of them went with it. That's why we give so much credit at Worlds to Paul. But we don't sit down and say, oh, well, Paul finished 4 spots back from Ricky at this tournament, and that was pretty important. And Paul's got the worst finish of the group of the season. And, because when we look at the wins, we attribute a lot more value to the wins. And I just don't know how much value I add to the fact that Paul made it to finals instead of semifinals.
Totally fair. I mean, I think here's the counter argument that I think you could make in McBeth's favor. You acknowledged that he played better at the biggest tournaments of the year. And ultimately, had he won Worlds, and not finished second. So he wins Worlds, he wins USDGC, makes it to the finals of the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship. Is that enough? Like, you talk about Ricky having one bad hole and in a way, maybe even one bad individual shot that keeps him out of the finals of the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship. That's very fair. I mean, he effectively 4-putted that hole because he missed the putt, went OB, missed another putt, and then, tapped in for quad bogey. Disaster, right? I mean, it basically took him out. And the thing is, like, McBeth winning Worlds versus not was also an insane, fluky thing that happened. It wasn't a 4-putt, but it was, this shot from Conrad. If he wins Worlds, do we say he deserves Player of the Year because he won both majors and made it to the finals of the Pro Tour Championship? I mean, that's just the hypothetical that I want to put out there. Everything else would still be true, right?
Sure.
Ricky won more regular season events. Ricky had the better high average finish on the Elite Series. Like, you can look at a lot of metrics that would point to Ricky, but if it really just came down to that one shot from James Conrad keeping McBeth from winning the second and going 2 for 2 in majors on the season, does that change it at all in your mind?
Well, let me possibly, but here's why I'm not willing to give quite as much credit to James Conrad's shot in terms of, meaning that we can look past it in order to give McBeth Player of the Year. James Conrad made the miracle shot, and then he made a second great shot in the playoffs that Paul McBeth could not. He had the chance in the playoffs. It wasn't over. It wasn't a foregone conclusion at that point. James Conrad pushed the matter to another hole, and that's when Paul McBeth cracked. And because he played 18 perfectly. No one has disputed that. Everyone thinks that because James had not made the corner, laying up was the smart decision for McBeth. So 18 was not 100%. McBeth's fault. Hole 16 in the playoff was. That is an island shot that, while difficult, is something that McBeth could have and had executed in the weekend, and he didn't. And here's back on the flip side. If he loses the playoff at USDGC, I don't think we're even having this discussion really right now. And so I think it's a matter of playoffs, and McBeth won one of them and he lost the other. And I think for the tiebreaker to see, what does it look like when you make it to the most important moments, whether that be a hole to decide the winner or a final 18 with a clean slate to decide the winner. McBeth is 1 for 3. He got it at USDGC. He couldn't close out the Pro Tour Championship, and he couldn't close out Worlds. And so I do knock him a little bit for that, even though our envy shot that took it from his hands was a miracle shot. It's not without fault for McBeth either that he didn't raise the bell at the end of the tournament.
Very, very interesting stuff. McBeth, despite looking lackluster at many points this season, showing up and really playing well at the biggest tournaments of the year. I still think ultimately the most consistently very good, excellent player this year was Ricky Wysocki. And, you can, I think, nitpick about the finishes at the most important tournaments, not his best performances, but all told, start to finish, Ricky was the most consistently excellent player this year. And I think that should weigh in the minds of voters. And we will have our votes coming up soon, and it'll be coming out in the next few weeks about who is going to be selected as the Player of the Year for Multi-World Disc Golf. Of course, the PDGA matter is a whole separate thing, algorithmic. Those points can just be directly calculated. So I haven't actually checked in on that race lately, but I wonder if Katrina pulled it off in FPO. We'll see. All right. Well, we've got a couple of excellent interviews to get to. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. The one thing I would say real quick, if I was Discraft, I would take Paul's season over Ricky's. Majors and performance at majors are, in my opinion, better marketing. They are the tournaments that are aired, Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship, for example, on ESPN. They get the most views. Look at Worlds, 32 or 36,000 viewers for that Worlds final round. The USDGC title that puts Macbeth in an elite class of multi-time USDGC winners. Those are marketing points and selling points for Macbeth as the greatest player of all time. Next year, we're not going to remember Ricky's regular season excellence. And maybe next year we still talk about it, but in 3 years, we definitely won't. We're going to keep talking
Ricky
about Macbeth's
ran down Paul at the Open at Belton?
Exactly. Like that is not going to be the storyline. We are going to talk every single year at USDGC. Oh, here comes Paul Macbeth. He's a 3-time winner. What's he going to do here? Worlds. Oh, is Paul Macbeth out for revenge after, the Worlds in Utah where James Conrad pulls off the miracle shot? The Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship. People who are watching on ESPN for the first time or aren't as, invested viewers are going to see 2.5 Discraft players on that coverage. Half being Drew Gibson and the Buzz, because there is no better marketer for the Buzz than Drew Gibson. So, Adam Hammis and Paul Macbeth, those are the players that you want to see on coverage. And so if I'm Discraft, I think I prefer Macbeth's season. I don't think it's Player of the Year season, but as a sponsorship, I'm thrilled with Macbeth. So that is the one qualification that I want to make about why it feels kind of weird, I think, in my opinion, to say that these majors aren't enough for Paul to take it down, where in the same time we can think, but it's the majors. And that's kind of the delineation I make in my head.
We need to get to 4 majors so that we can have the consistency to be able to talk about that as here's how they performed at the majors. When you only have 2, it's weird, okay? It's just not enough to really feel like it's yes, they're the 10-pole tournaments, but you can't define a season simply on the majors when there's, another 15 to 20 Elite Series events. So we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got some great interviews coming up with Missy Gannon and Gannon Queen, the Pro Tour champions this year, $30,000 paycheck recipients. So don't go anywhere. You're listening to The Upshot.
The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. From 3D modeling to technical materials, Pound utilizes current technology to push product development beyond the current boundaries. But fancy software and high-tech materials mean nothing if you're not part of the actual building and testing of the bags. From the initial sketch to pattern sets, Pound cuts the materials and sews the prototypes together, ensuring that design and materials come together to achieve their ultimate goal, performing for players under all conditions. Check out the options at PoundDiscGolf.com. Touring disc golf professionals understand the need to stay focused on their game plan during rounds. When they're focused, they're confident. And when they're confident, performance peaks. This is why so many touring pros wear Diameter apparel. Simply put, Diameter apparel is really, really comfortable, allowing players to stay focused on their game. Diameter apparel also happens to look amazing. Order online or find currently released designs at your local disc golf store. TDs and event coordinators are talking about how popular custom event and trophy jerseys are. Breathable, durable, beautiful, Diameter.
Joining us now on The Upshot is Gannon Queen, who just took down the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship, coming from the first round, 28th seed, all the way to the title. Nathan, it was an amazing run to watch unfold. I mean, I know you've had a couple days to kind of process things now. When you look back on the weekend, like, what comes to mind for you?
I finally put together 4 solid rounds. I see throughout the year, I seem to be doing kind of 2 good rounds and 1 bad, or 3 good rounds and 1 bad. So it felt good to do that at the finale, and in such a big stage is just a bonus.
Your earnings this year jumped up to almost $50,000, just shy of $48,739 with a $30,000 paycheck for winning that tournament. Does that feel like a year-changing amount of money to get? I don't necessarily want to say life-changing, but like, it seems like, that just goes from like having a solid season to kind of like a wow factor to get a check like that in your pocket.
Yeah, it absolutely fixed the year. And honestly, with the coverage that the event had, and the major that the event really is, it kind of could be life-changing. Not necessarily the money that I got that day, but the win is going to change a lot of things going forward for the next few years.
We've had some players in the past tell us how their off seasons have changed thanks to the payout. Has yours changed at all, or what has changed in your upcoming plans thanks to that $30,000?
In the near future, not much has changed. I'm actually still, the travel day today is to go down to Greenville, North Carolina to play Downey's Players Cup, an A tier I've been planning to play all year. And I've still got Myrtle Beach Open and then 3 or 4 other B tiers to play this year. So as far as playing in the off season, not much has changed. I'll definitely have to do a little bit more business work. But that's about the only thing that's changed from that.
There'll be ESPN coverage of this tournament coming up in a few weeks. Obviously, you go up against some of the greatest players on the planet and get the win. You talk about a time to put together 4 great rounds. It's a must at the Pro Tour Championship. How do you think this will change things for you moving forward, specifically?
Since it's only been a few days, I don't have too many specifics on it yet, but it's just going to bring so many more opportunities from inside the disc golf world and outside the disc golf world, where now that I have such a huge accomplishment like this, it's going to be easier to try to bring in outside endorsements and things of that sort. You've got this huge accomplishment. You can say, hey, look, this person's done this. This is why you should be attached to them and, advertise through them. And so that's the main thing it's going to do, is just the exposure and the longevity that I have in the sport has, it's just skyrocketed since the last few days.
How long are you on contract with Innova for?
Up to this point, it's been year to year. I haven't discussed just yet. We have a few weeks. Within the next few weeks, we'll be talking about that a little more.
Okay, so you will be going to contract negotiations off of winning the Disc Golf Pro Tour.
It definitely helps. Yeah.
Well, obviously the broadcast made a lot of the fact that nobody picked you to win in the brackets, thousands of brackets, nobody picked you to win. You had to overcome the challenging odds of needing to place above people. You couldn't just tie because you'd get knocked out because of a low seed. How did you navigate the tournament itself? And like, do you feel like you come away saying like, F the haters, nobody picked me, like nobody, how could you not pick me? Or is it more like, wow, like I really did overcome the odds?
I'm probably kind of in between that. I'm not really much of an odds. I believe in myself, and I know that I'm supposed to be up there fighting. So I don't really feel like I was against the odds, even though I was the 28 seed. Going into the week, I just knew, being the 28 seed, I wasn't able to tie with anybody. I only had 4 people that first round that I would beat in a tie. And only 4 people move on. So that's about like nobody if you do, And so I just went in knowing that pretty much shoot the hot round. Don't give a tie a chance to kick you out of this. That's not how you want to go out. So once I moved on from the first round, I kept, all the encouraging messages I got. A lot of the time I responded with, yep, one more start tomorrow, just looking at it like a new tournament each day, not necessarily moving on to the next round.
Do you like the format?
I do like the format. I think it's a good championship format. It puts more pressure on the players, where in a normal tournament, if you have a bad round, you have the opportunity to the next day and come back and catch back up. But in this situation, to crown a champion, if you have a bad round, you're out. So puts a lot more pressure on it, and it really makes you focus in and make sure that you do what you got to do.
So you said that this season has been a story of 3 really good rounds and then 1 lackluster round. So what was different about this weekend? Because the lackluster round, like you just said, knocks you out. So how did you ensure that you were putting together 4 amazing rounds?
I went in with a little different mindset than the rest of the year, of, I guess, just more aggressive, even though I'm a fairly aggressive player in the first place. It was just, what you have to do. This is the biggest stage and your biggest opportunity to do so. Let's get it done. And I guess I should just look at every round like it's a new tournament, because they worked out this weekend. That's for sure.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to ask you that. Does this feel like the kind of thing that could catalyze more success in the future? You were up at the top of leaderboards at points this season, as we've seen in the past. But not a ton of top 10 finishes at Elite Series events. Is this the kind of thing that you feel like you can take away from and build towards like higher finishes in the future and becoming a stalwart on lead cards late at tournaments?
Absolutely. I think it can help out a lot. Like I was saying earlier, I've always believed and expected myself to be up there in the first place. Now that I've got that feeling, I know what it feels like to be there and to pull it off for the win with all that energy and pressure. I can always go back and think about that feeling when I'm in an event, and that's definitely an advantage over people who don't have that.
So you said that you feel that this tournament is a major in everything but the designation. What is it about this tournament that you think gives it that prestige to be considered, or that you believe is considered a major? It looks like you muted yourself.
When you think about the big tournaments for the year, you've got Worlds, USDGC, and the Pro Tour Championship. Worlds, it's the World Championship, so automatically that's right in there. USDGC and the Pro Tour Championship you have to qualify for. And any qualifying event, in my opinion, that's going to be the top players. That's a major event. It's the top players there.
Yeah, and the payout on top of that. When did you feel the pressure the most this weekend? Was it in the final round? Was it coming down the stretch?
While I was playing, I honestly never really felt too much pressure or nerves. It was more of intensity, I would say, while I was playing. The crowd being out there, and just right off of the first tee, as we teed off, you could just kind of tell that the crowd was there to hope that I pulled it off, and they wanted to watch me do well. And it, that helps me feel good throughout the round. It keeps me happy. It keeps me smiling. And the only time I really got nervous throughout the week was before the semifinals that morning. I wasn't even at the course yet. It was just kind of hour or so, man, this is pretty crazy. I've got a chance to go to the finals. By the time I got to the course, though, I had settled down and was kind of back in my zone.
So coming in the end of the season, you were really on the bubble in terms of getting into the Pro Tour Championship. You are one of very few players who played in the Stafford Open, at least who are on tour regularly. Was that motivated, at least in part, by seeing where you were at on the Pro Tour standings and wanting a couple more points to kind of shore up that position?
Not necessarily. I just enjoy playing a lot. When I take weekends off, I feel kind of lost and not really sure what to do. So I like going to check out new places, new courses. I hadn't been to New Jersey, and it was just already part of the plan.
Were you thinking about that though? Down those final 3-4 tournaments, knowing that you were close to that cutoff, and you actually ended up needing to pass some people, and you did, to get in, safely. Obviously, there were a couple people that dropped, and a couple other people, came in from the 33 and 34 spots, but you were already comfortably in at that point. Was that on your mind when you were competing in MVP Open and such?
I actually didn't have the points on my mind until after Maple Hill. Maple Hill jumped me in. I had that good finish there. I wasn't thinking about it too much at that point. But going into Green Mountain, I wanted to finish well just to make sure that I wasn't going to get past. It turned out that I couldn't really, is what I found out later on. Yeah. But yeah, when that was the first time I really thought about it, was up at Green Mountain.
Amazing to think what could have been, right? A worse performance at a couple of those late tournaments, and maybe you don't get in. And instead, now you're hoisting a giant $30,000 check in the air. It's such a cool story. Do you have some stories from this week? People reaching out to you, people coming up and talking to you at the course. Just anything notable and interesting and enjoyable about this last week?
There's really quite a few cool things that have happened. One of the things that most people wouldn't think about probably is how many people tell me that they're left-handed in the messages that I get. That's kind of a cool that's kind of a cool thing. I learn about all the lefties. I found out from a lot of people it was a tearjerker situation. I got a few you brought tears to my eyes during that, which is awesome. That's just kind of confirming the energy that was at the course. All that intensity and everything I was talking about went throughout everywhere, and it's really neat. I've gotten messages from across the country, from different states. I've gotten messages from out of country, telling me, like, from Sweden, thanks, from Africa. I've gotten multiple different messages from across the country and outside of the country, and it's just awesome to know how far that this has reached just in the last few days.
Well, last question for me. You talked a little bit about the fact that you were nervous before the semifinals and you're able to calm yourself down. Do you have a routine, or what was it that you did in order to remove those nerves so that you could feel? Because you just looked so comfortable on that course all weekend. So what do you do to remove the nerves at perhaps what I think is one of the highest pressure moments of that final round that I imagine is probably of your career and of a lot of people's careers?
Yeah, I'm not really sure I could tell you a specific thing that calmed me down that day. Like I said, it was before I was even at the course. I think just the mindset that I had, maybe driving into the course and seeing the baskets and seeing all of the Disc Golf Pro Tour setup on the way in is kind of a calming feeling for me. I was able to warm up on the course because it was, set up where not many players were playing. And it gave me a chance every day I warmed up on hole 8 and 9, and you've got to hit some gaps on those holes. and just warming up, hitting some gaps. I putted for longer than I normally do on 8's basket. I'd sit out there and putt for maybe 20, 30 minutes before the round started. And just being able to be by myself, putting on my basket without anybody else hitting the chains too, it's just kind of a calming feeling to me out there in the woods. So I think that had a lot to do with it this week.
When you look back at the rounds, and maybe particularly in the final round, what do you see as the most important shots that you were able to make, whether that be a big putt or hitting a gap clean when somebody else made a mistake? Like, what were the critical moments that helped deliver this title?
I think 15-16 during the final round. I had already gotten 2 birdies on 13-14 with some squeaky putts, I'll say. And 15, such a small gap. I had the tee box and put it inside of 20 feet, put the pressure on the 2 players that were close to me to do the same, and they weren't able to. And then the tee shot on 16, which is about just as small of a gap, but 250 feet away. And once I saw that crest over the hill and start to fade out, I knew it was going to be pretty close. And that was the first time during that final round that the energy and intensity that I had just came out. I let a big scream out after that drive. So that has to be the biggest one.
Yeah, it was just awesome to watch unfold. What can we expect from you in the future? I mean, do you expect to continue on your normal, you play a lot of tournaments out there on the road lifestyle? Do you think this changes anything about your approach to playing the game at all? Obviously, you got a big contract negotiation coming up. This certainly will be a helpful feather in the cap. What's in store for you?
I feel like I'm still going to want to play a lot next year. There's already some events that I choose to go around and not go to on the Pro Tour and the National Tour anyway, so I'll probably continue that. But overall, I'm planning to hit a lot of events and try to more consistently be up there towards the top, not just be that one hit at the end of the season.
Well, even if it is one hit, that's a very good one to get. That's right. All right, Nathan. Well, thank you so much. Safe travels today. We really appreciate you taking some time with us.
Yeah, no problem, guys. Appreciate you having me here.
Yeah. Trophy, baby. That's awesome. Make sure you strap that down. I don't know. Is it metal or is it like ceramic and it'll break if it falls?
It's metal. It might chip up a little bit, but I don't think it's going to break on me.
Have you had some champagne out of that yet?
No, I haven't had any champagne from it. The one that they handed me it didn't even have any pressure left. I'm sure you could tell that when I was trying to.
I noticed that.
All right. Well, congratulations again, and we'll talk to you again soon. Have a great off season.
Thanks, guys. You do the same. Appreciate it.
We'll be right back. Joining us now on the Upshot is Missy Gannon, who just took down the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship, going back-to-back to close out the 2021 season and finishing with the single season FPO earnings record, over $67,000 in earnings this year. Amazing stuff. Missy, congratulations and welcome back to the program.
Thank you, guys, and thank you for having me.
So what a storybook end to the year. You were carving up the lines at Hornets Nest. Did you feel like your game clicked into a new level at the end of this season, or was this just, steady as she goes?
Kind of. I do feel like for some reason I felt extra confident at Hornets Nest, but also in just my game overall. I think this point in the season, it could go like one of two ways. You can either start feeling really tired and ready to be done, which I thought was going to be what happened to me, or you're just ready to go and ready to finish strong. And so thankfully, that was the route I somehow decided to go. I definitely felt like there were a few shots where I just felt like it was so effortless, and on some of those really tough technical finishing holes. I don't know, something just clicked, and it was just awesome that was the time that I decided to feel like I was, just really dialed in.
I'm sure this is a question you've gotten, but the two tournaments that you took down are some of the most important tournaments of the year. The Throw Pink Women's Championship is a major in everything but having the little M next to it. The Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship, obviously having a different format, but still with the prize purse and the $30,000 win for you, has to be significant as well. So my question then, which of the two tournaments was more important to you?
I don't know. It's such a thing to try to figure out, because there's so much history and so much prestige around, Winthrop and the USCGC, and having the Throw Pink event alongside, the major that happened for the MPO field. That felt really like a milestone win for me. And, my sponsors felt as though it was a major win, in at least, how it's presented and all of that. So I would say that felt a little bigger, but it's really hard to it's a $30,000 paycheck. It's like but so much money regardless of what place you finished. Just getting there and earning your spot there. A lot of people won the most money they've ever won in one single event, just showing up. So I don't know. I mean, the Disc Golf Pro Tour makes up the majority of my tour, the majority of the tour in general. So to have it all kind of wrap up in such a big way, they're different. They're certainly different, and they both feel extremely important. And I'm just glad that I took down both of them.
Did you ever imagine when you started playing professionally 5 or 6 years ago that you would win $30,000 at a disc golf tournament? Did that ever cross your mind?
No, not at all. And even before winning the Pro Tour Championships, when I looked at how much money I had earned over the course of just this season alone, I was just like, wow, that was such a successful year for me. And obviously there's so many other people that contributed to that sort of the amount of money that I was able to take in this year. I wouldn't have been possible without the Disc Golf Pro Tour, without all of that added cash, all of the extra sponsors that were able to be picked up this year. So I already saw my season as a great success before the Pro Tour Championship. Even before the Throw Pink event, I was just like, wow, this was such a successful year. But yeah, no, I could never have imagined this type of outcome.
So we've had players talk about in the past how their off seasons have changed after winning the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship because of that payout. Is yours changed and your plans changed at all because of that win?
Maybe. I definitely have started to think about ways that we can invest this money in something in terms of our long-term future. It's a good chunk of money that could really be used in a very thoughtful way. And a lot of people nowadays, you saw Kevin Jones putting down roots in North Carolina, and a bunch of other people kind of making those bigger life choices that I don't know that we all would have been able to do that a few years ago. So to be able to start thinking about things like that, and Tom and I don't have a settled place of our own anymore, so that could be something that we're looking into and trying to figure out what would be the best decision for us. But yeah, I mean, totally, it just opens a bunch of new doors and new avenues to start trying to navigate.
Well, this is it's been a spectacular finish to this season, and a lot of people have been wondering, like, when can we get a Missy Gannon signature disc? It seems like a little difficult, maybe if you're a Missy Gannon fan, to find discs from Discraft. Is that going to change? And are you frustrated by that at all? Because you haven't had necessarily the same level of support as some of your other players on Team Discraft.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like there's just so many new people in the sport, and honestly, I picked a great year to kind of get my name at the top of the leaderboard so many times, because I think that there are so many new eyes on the sport in general, people that don't necessarily know all of the ins and outs and the history and all of that. And I have a Tour Series disc. There are some available on Discraft. I also have a custom putter that I helped design. It's a mold that we've already had, but I helped design exactly what I wanted in terms of feel and stiffness and all of that. So those are available over at Discraft. And yeah, it's interesting. I just feel like people don't know exactly where to go for discs, and maybe that's honestly, maybe that's partly my fault, because I'm not pushing those products all the time on social media. It's kind of not what I've decided to use my platform for. I do plug it here and there just to be like, hey, go over to the factory store, go over to discraft.com. But also, OTB discs, they have a whole custom run of Challenger SSs that Discraft made and then sent them over to there. So there's plenty of ways to support me. But I think that I definitely see in my future, whether it be a signature disc or another disc that I throw really often, I can see that being something that I work out with Discraft, especially now that I've had two pretty major wins coming off the season. So a lot of things to talk about, but there are definitely ways to support me. I just have to be better at telling you guys what those are. So if anything, I take a little bit of responsibility for that. So Discraft has been really great to me. All of my sponsors have been great to me. So yeah, it's all good things. And I know that a lot of people want a commemorative disc or something like that. And maybe that'll happen. And I have been asked, how we want to go about doing that from Discraft. And, I'm trying to kind of store up all of those things and trying to maybe make something bigger happen. So, anyway, a lot of good things happening. I don't see any negatives.
So you say that hasn't been the primary role of your social media and how you've chosen to use your platform. I think one of the big things, success has to come as well with popularity right now. It's, being able to project an image and the kind of professional that people want to purchase their discs and want to be a part of their brand. So how do you see your social media platform as promoting that? And what do you think is the role of your social media in doing so?
I think the role of my social media is really just trying to, give my followers an insight into how I was feeling during an event, or, mostly just recapping things that happened in each event. Or, I think I definitely need to do a better job of being a little bit more active on social media. I think I just hit 20,000 followers on Instagram, which I'm that's crazy to me. But I think I need some direction. Honestly, I'm not a huge social media person. And so I think it's just, I kind of got into this comfort zone of just posting, event recaps and all of that. And I'd like to be better at it. And I'm still kind of figuring out what my platform should be used for and what I want it to portray. So hopefully I can figure that out in the off season.
Here's the secret to social media. Hire a 19-year-old to do it for you, because I promise you they're going to do it better than you can. And, maybe you can use a chunk of the $30K you just won to get a social media manager. I mean, it feels like a thing that's happening in disc golf right now. We're seeing agents get involved. We're seeing people have tour managers in some cases. I'm sure there are some players that have somebody who's helping them with their social media. Has any of that stuff, do you use any sort of like third parties to help you with your sort of the management of the tour? And, slash, do you see that potentially being something you do in the future as the game continues to grow?
Yeah, I think that's going to be super important to try to figure out and get on that sort of path sooner than later, because I think you see it now with some players, finding those people that can really help them out with different aspects of the behind the scenes. And it's only going to get harder and harder to probably find people as more and more disc golfers decide to branch out and reach out to people to do that kind of stuff. I don't right now have anybody out helping me with that. So I do need to start maybe letting go of some responsibilities and exploring those potential opportunities. And I don't even know where to start with that, but I'm sure I can reach out to my fellow pro disc golfer friends and see what they're doing.
I tried finding this before we talked and I couldn't find it. I wasn't quick enough. But when does your current contract expire with Discraft?
I had signed a 1-year contract at the beginning of the year.
Okay, so you will be going into contract negotiations off season.
Yes.
I imagine then that these 2 wins are probably giving you the best high right now going into those contract negotiations.
Yes. But another thing, had I known, maybe I would have tried to secure an agent or something before, because I just don't know what I'm still trying to figure out exactly what's important to me as a professional and how to eloquently, talk about those types of things. And so it's going to be hard. I've already started it. I'm starting to write down notes and just trying to, I've talked to Paige, who has obviously a lot of experience in negotiating contracts over so many years. So, I'm kind of trying to figure out all of that right now, and it's a lot.
What a way to close out a contract year. This is the dream, right? And in professional sports, it's like, guys in a contract year, like, here they go. So you did it, and you probably earned yourself, everybody's getting $1 million deals now. So I wish you the best of luck on pulling that off. What's in the cards for you in the off season? Are you excited to have some time off, or do you feel like, wow, I wish we could keep touring right now the way I'm playing?
I mean, every weekend is different. So I could have, if there was another event this coming weekend, I could have, who knows what could have happened. I probably would have performed pretty well, but, to go out on such a high note, I'll take it, and we can end it there, and hopefully I can pick up where we left off next year. But I know I'm definitely excited to have some time off, some time to think through all of the things we literally just talked about. And figure out how to make 2022 better in terms of everything, social media, contract, and all of it. So it's nice to finally take a chill pill and just relax and, go see some family and all of that. So I'm very excited for next year, but I'm also gonna live in the moment right now and hang out and relax.
Awesome. Well, Missy, thank you so much for stopping by, and congratulations again on such a great finish to your season. And we'll look forward to seeing you out there in 2022.
Yeah, thank you guys so much, and it was a pleasure to be on your show.
Always. Missy Gannon with us here on the Upshot. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Upshot. Thanks so much to Missy and Nathan for coming on and talking about their Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship wins. Both of them in a contract year, Josh. That is awesome.
I had done some looking because I was thinking to myself, I thought, I think Missy's only on a 1-year contract. So You have to imagine that Missy is going to get some phone calls from other sponsorships that, even if she doesn't choose to take them, is going to bring a lot of bargaining power to the table, in addition to the bargaining power that comes with, 2 incredible wins.
Well, I love Missy's attitude. She's obviously not in this for, trying to make a quick buck and stuff. Like, she's not out there hustling her product on social media. She's not really she basically acknowledged that she's not totally sure how to approach the negotiation process that's about to come up. And, I think everybody's acting in good faith, on the manufacturer side as well. So I don't think she's going to get screwed over or anything. But I do think it shows you that, the future with having somebody who represents you in those negotiations rather than you having to do that yourself, that can't come soon enough. Missy Gannon has raised her value to a manufacturing sponsorship partner in some amount over the last 6 weeks. Now, I don't know how much, but I think that there's a case to be made that, it's leveled up a little bit. There's a reason that Nathan Queen and Missy Gannon have been on 1-year deals, right? Think about the people who are on 3, 4, 5-year deals, right? They're the players that are the most popular, the most talked about, the most followed on social media, and who typically are winning a lot or finishing at the top of tournaments a lot. And now, I don't know if this means they're going to get multi-year deals, but certainly it helps with the bargaining power to say that you've won an event like the Pro Tour Championship. And I think it's going to become increasingly important for players to have a finish to a season like Missy Gannon did when it's about to be time to try to draw up a new contract, because it really does help, right? This is going to be the kind of thing that gets another company to reach out and say, hey, let's talk. And all of a sudden, you've got competing offers, the bids are going up, and you end up with a much more comfortable paycheck coming your way in the following season.
It's exciting to see that the 2 winners of the Pro Tour Championship were ones who, at least in the short term, were very much if Paul McBeth wins the Pro Tour Championship, congratulations. I'm sure the donation to his foundation is nice, but it doesn't change his career. I think this is career changing for both of them. And so it's exciting to see, and congratulations to both of them.
I saw a scorching hot take in the YouTube comments from our Tuesday show that Macbeth wanted Nathan Queen to win because it would mean more to Nathan to win the 30,000 and for Paul to win the 30,000. That whole concept right there, can we please just kill that? People have been saying this at multiple points this season about players acquiescing in a tournament in order to let somebody else win because it would mean more to them to win the tournament. No one is doing that. Literally nobody is doing that. That's never going to happen. I would love for someone to find a time where that actually happened in the history of disc golf, where someone was like, I'm going to let the other person win because this would mean more to them than it would to me. No one's doing that. So just want to point that out.
Bad take, in my opinion.
Okay, well, we have so much more to get to in this off season. Some news about Drew Gibson signing a brand new contract with Infinite Disc, a lifetime contract worth more than $1 million, million plus, I think is the terminology that was used. We're going to talk about that next week. We've also got to look ahead to the 2022 schedule as we've kicked this can for 4 weeks at this point. But we look forward to chatting about that.
We're kicking
it
to the week before LVC.
No discussion of the 2022 schedule until the season begins. Anyway, follow along with the Ultimate Frisbee National Championships if you're so inclined. It's over on our sister site, ultiworld.com/live. You can follow along with all the action from the Ultimate Tournament in San Diego and enjoy some sunny disc sports. So for Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we'll talk to you next week right here on The Upshot.